Hello everybody, my name is Gonser. I am a senior at Northwood University. I am majoring in insurance and risk management. Today I am discussing a project that I have been working on for Marketing 2010 Principles of Selling. For this project I had to interview 3 people within the sales industry and kind of get a little background on what they do and what it's like. It's been a pretty good project so far, so I'm pretty excited to talk about it, so we'll move on. So here's interview 1. Alright, interview 1. The person I first interviewed is also a student at Northwood University. His name is Anthony Lewis. He is currently a sales support intern for Go Incorporated. Upon graduation, he has a job lined up where he'll become a marketing expert. Right now, he distributes promotional material, new product releases, and has occasional lunches and dinners with clients. The first question I asked Anthony was regarding the importance of communicating value with your customers, which I think is a big part of every salesperson's daily job. He explained that the biggest thing to communicating value with his customers is he goes away from price. He says you need to tell the clients, what comes with the product, not just the product itself, whether it's marketing efforts, testing, quality assurance, or even customer service. I believe all those are very important for letting the customer know that it's not just about price. We have these things to come with it. He also explained that you need to get them off price. A lot of people are going to be focused on price. What's the cheapest for me? Can I afford it? But if you kind of get them and see what they really want, get them away from price, that's when you can start moving forward with the next step of selling them your product. He said in the end, it all comes down to these relationships. You get these relationships, you get a competitive advantage, and that's how he explained to do it. Finally, I asked him about communication between him and his other, salespeople. Does he work with them on a daily basis? What happens on a day-to-day basis for him? He explained that he's pretty hands-off when it comes to working with other salespeople. He says usually on his own during the day. He travels to company, and try to promote and sell stuff. He said he does have to call his regional manager once a month. That is the thing that all the salespeople do in his region, which I think is important. You got to communicate with your boss and let them know what's happening out there in the jobs and stuff. He also said that everybody gets together for a regional market meeting quarterly, so that's another important thing. Get everybody together, see what's going on, get that teamwork. It may not be day to day, but it's important to do it at least a little bit, and I think that that's pretty important. So that was interview 1, Anthony Lewis, Go Incorporated. So move on to interview 2 now. For my second interview, I interviewed Bonnie Johnson Hayward of General Agency Company. She is a commercial sales agent. She also is the operations manager in her branch. She oversees the operations for independent agencies with 48 employees, and she currently services a book of 65 commercial clients throughout Michigan and Illinois. Thought she was a good client, or a good person to interview, because insurance is what I want to go into, so I really wanted to see what it was like in the insurance industry and how the stuff we've been learning this semester falls into it. So let's get started. The first question I asked Bonnie was regarding ethical dilemmas. I asked her, how often are you faced with ethical dilemmas, and have you found a way that you best handle them? And she explained, the majority of stress in making decisions can be eliminated if a person simply stays true to what they know is right and does not mentally justify that they should change course. And I completely agree. I think that is a very good point. If you're justifying whether it's right or wrong, then 9 times out of 10 it's probably not the right thing to do, and you should follow your gut. Do the right thing for the client. She continues that having open and honest conversations is what builds trust with the clients, and salespeople should always keep the best interests of the clients in their mind. Another great point, I think, especially in insurance sales. I mean, you gotta know what they want, and not only you gotta do what is best for them, because insurance is what technically puts your life back together. Something happens and you don't have the right amount of insurance, you go back at the person that sold you the insurance, and if you're not honest with them up front when you're selling them the insurance, then if something does go wrong and they're not happy with the amount of coverage you gave them, then they're definitely not going to be coming back, and they're not going to have anything nice to say to you when they talk to their friends later on. So the next question I asked Bonnie was, how do you understand your buyers? How do you know what they want? And she said right off the beginning, you need to know their personality and their communication styles. She said if you're not on the same page with the communication styles and their type of personality, it's going to be very hard to make a connection with them. And I think that we've definitely learned that throughout the semester, and it's good to hear that from a sales side of it. There's questions you can ask them, what they really want, what they're looking for. It's not just price. Bonnie explained that if you're on the pricing side of things and the client is on the coverage side of things, and you guys are not connecting there, you're going to lose the connection every time. You gotta know what they're looking for. Do they want the most coverage, or are they going to come to you and just say, hey, give me the best price? I'm looking for cheaper insurance. My insurance now is too expensive. So that's what you need to learn when you're discussing this with them. But the next question I asked Bonnie was kind of on the commitment issues. I said, do you have problems with people, committing to your coverages and selling them insurance, and how do you manage that? How do you not waste your time? And she started off by saying, when you're first meeting them and they ask, what do you have and what can you offer them? She always says, I can offer you this and this, which is exactly what you're looking for. And if I provide that for you, will you be willing to commit and go to the next level and continue on with doing business with us? And she said if they don't say yes right then and there, she said she usually just parts ways. Otherwise she's wasting their time. She said if they're not going to be willing to commit further on after you're giving them what they exactly want, then they're most likely not going to leave their current carrier. So she said that's how she justifies who she spends her most time on. She doesn't want to waste her time or their time. The last question that I asked Bonnie was building a customer network. I said, how do you build your best customer network? Is there certain things you do? Do you go to community events, organizations? And she said, yes, for the organizations is the biggest part for her. She said she's part of many organizations, and she deals with many different businesses on a personal level. She's part of their organizations, and she said it's a great way to get herself out there, get her name out there. She's not necessarily selling them the insurance while she's in these organizations with them, but she's getting her name out there and letting them know that I'm a commercial agent, and I'm like part of your organization. So if something does go wrong with those businesses and they have a bad claims experience or something with insurance and they want to go somewhere else, then most likely the first person that they're going to look for is her, because she's been there and she's in the organizations with them and her name is in their mind. So she's part of Central Michigan Manufacturers and Michigan Oil and Gas Association and many more. So that all of them are very important to her. She goes to dinners and things and just works on building that customer network, and I think that's very important, and it's a good thing to do. It's a great easy way to build your customer network for sure. So that was interview 2 with Bonnie Johnson Hayward. Next up, we got interview 3. For my third interview, I interviewed Evan Ziegler. He is an account manager and a sales rep for B&L Bolt Incorporated. He sells industrial and construction supplies across Michigan. The first question I asked Evan was, how do you gain the trust of your clients? What's the best way to gain that trust and to get the business? And he said that the best way that he has learned is through consistent honesty. He said if you're being honest with them 100% of the time, then they're going to want to come back to you because they're going to like what you're selling them and know that you're being completely honest. He said the clients want to know the complete honest truth, whether it's good or bad. And I think that's true. If you have bad news for them and you end up lying to them and giving them a little bit better news and getting the sale, they're eventually going to find out. Something's going to go wrong, and they're going to plan differently than what you told them, and they're most likely going to leave you and go elsewhere, and that's going to put a bad image on you. And Evan even explains, clients in his industry need to plan and adjust for what they're buying, and if you're not completely honest with them, then they're going to know, and they're not going to want to do business with you. Next, I asked him how important is communication with each of his clients, and he said communication is crucial in anything you do. if you want to build a relationship, whether it's personal or through your business, he said communication has to be top notch. You need to be able to communicate effectively with your clients. He said the best way that he actually communicates sometimes with his clients is by just shutting his mouth, listening to them, listening to what they want. He said that in his line of business, most people that come to him, they have a problem, and it's not being solved where they're currently at. And he said that he just listens and takes notes to what they need and becomes their problem solver. And he said, if you become their problem solver, you're going to get their business 9 times out of 10. Doing the right thing for them, being honest, and then solving all their problems. That are going to want to come back. The third question I asked him was, how does he address concerns? He said that this kind of falls back under communication as well. If they have concerns with something, you need to be able to communicate with them and let them know and how to solve those concerns. And he said the biggest thing is don't leave them with unaddressed concerns. He said the biggest mistake that he can make is to leave some of his clients with those concerns that he hasn't addressed yet. And he said that's the biggest way to lose your business and have the clients go elsewhere. The final question I asked him was how important is self-leadership in his type of sales job that he has. And he said that it's pretty big. You got to be willing to put in the time. And he said that in his job, his bosses expect him to hit 40-50 hours a week. With that being said, he said the biggest thing for him is just to hit his sales numbers, hit his budget numbers. If he's hitting those and he's putting in the budget numbers that his bosses are looking for, they're going to be flexible with him. And he said with that's just got to, you got to put in time to get those budget numbers, though. He said there's some days where he'll meet with a client, for 2 to 3 hours, and that'll be his day. But he said there'll be some days where he comes in at 6 a.m. and he doesn't leave until 7 or 8 p.m. He's got a hot buyer ready to do business, and he's got to put in that work all day to give him the information that he needs. He said in that way it's flexible, but in other ways it's not. He said you still got to put in the time. He said in everything that you do, he explains, not in just selling, everything you do, if you want growth and you want to be successful, you got to put in the time. Without the time, there's not going to be the success there, and I think that's completely true. If you're just half doing your work, and not giving them all the information that they want, and you're kind of just like more focused on yourself than you are on them, and giving them some information and then not getting back to them in a couple of days, they're not going to want to stick around for that. They're going to want somebody that is focused on helping them right then and there, putting in the hours for them and getting them the information they need so they can move on with their job, because they got a busy schedule. So it's all about mixing up that that time and putting in the time, for each individual client, and that's the best way to, once again earn their trust and earn their commitment and make sure they have no concerns. So that was my third and final interview. All 3 of them have been very helpful. I know there's been a lot of information I've taken from all of them, and we'll discuss that next. Alright, so that kind of wraps up the project so far. This is 3 people that I interviewed, Anthony, Bonnie, and Evan. All 3 were a very good interview. I feel like I gained a lot of information from each one of them. Kind of want to conclude some of the main points that I kind of picked up from this project so far. There's been a lot of them. I mean, the biggest thing is a lot of things that I've learned I feel like are reflected in the course throughout the semester, which is always nice to see. You take classes in college and sometimes you feel like that they're pointless and that you're not learning anything, but I feel like this course so far, a lot of the stuff that I've learned I've seen in the real life after interviewing these people, and that's nice to see. I'm glad that I'm learning stuff that I'll be able to use once I graduate. So on to some of the points that I've taken away from this so far is communication is one of the biggest ones. You got to communicate with your clients, whether it's your value, honesty, or your concerns. I mean, communication is what drives your connection with these people. You got to communicate value not only in the company and the product, but you got to communicate value in yourself too. You got to show the clients that you're confident in what you're doing, and have them trust you because you're going to work hard for them, put in the hours, and communicate that through them to show them. You got to get to know the customer is another big thing I picked up. If you don't know the customer right off the bat and you start trying to sell them things, you're going to go down a wrong path. You're going to be on different levels than them, and it's just not going to be successful. You got to get to know them, get to know what they're about and what they're looking for. I think that's very important to start off when you're meeting with potential clients. One of the biggest things is to put in the time. I mean, you can see that putting in time is very helpful no matter what you do, whether it's your homework, your job, your sport, whatever it is you do that you're passionate about. You got to put in the time. Without putting in the right amount of time, you're not going to get the success that you're looking for, and that's definitely the case for sales. Put in the time for the customers, put in the time for each potential client. Show them that you're willing to put in the long hours and work as hard as you can for them just to help them out, and you're going to get business. Which leads me to my last point, and I think the most important. In the end, it's all about the client. You got to do what's right for them. You can't be selfish. You can't think about yourself. It's about them. They're the people that are going to bring in business to you. They're the ones that give you the money, or they're the ones that fund everything that you're working for. So they're the most important thing, and you got to treat them like the most important thing, and be honest and communicate, and show the value to them. And I think, to me, from what I've taken so far, that's the most important thing when it comes to sales. So I mean, it's all important. That's my most important one. That's my project. 3 people I interviewed, what I've taken away from it. It's been very helpful. I've enjoyed it this far. It's a successful class in my opinion. I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and have a happy holidays.